I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
It's not a basketball series between the Indiana Fever and the Las Vegas Aces. National television is broadcasting a heist. When Indiana stole Game 1 in Vegas, everyone was taken aback. However, the script was altered after that. The Aces didn't merely use skill or adaptability to retaliate. The referees were on their side, issuing them whistles so unfairly that the match hardly resembled a contest. Stephanie White had no intention of being silent. She called for a league-wide probe into the condition of WNBA refereeing in one of the most passionate post-game interviews of her career that IT was seen by Gamebridge fans. Both the box score and social media witnessed it. Indiana was not being defeated by the Aces. They were receiving prizes. The Fever brought tenacity, resiliency, and a genuine heart to the floor each night. But those phantom whistles and the tragedy overshadowed that. If you believe the WNBA will resolve this issue, please let us know in the comments section below.
Disappointing, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways. But we also can't allow that to consume us, right? Like, we've got to be able to play through that. We've got to be able to control the things that we can control.
Let us clarify that this was not the first time that Indiana has faced two opponents, the team in front of them and the referees blowing whistles. Which way the favoritism leaned was clear from the start. The blueprint was established in Game 1. Due to their inability to produce rhythm offensively, Las Vegas relied on free throws to rally. When it was convenient for the refs, Indiana's physical defense and ability to body up cleanly miraculously turned into foul problems. The Aces were permitted to elbow each other. Breathing too closely led to the Fever being tagged. That was hardly a subtle double standard. It was yelling at anyone who listened.
Steph, why don't you think you were able to find any flow? And when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. We didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
It became indisputable by Game 2 that the whistles didn't just show up. They controlled the tempo and often knocked Indiana out of rhythm. By the third game, the bias had become an insurmountable barrier. The third quarter was the time that most exemplified it. Indiana's anchor, Aliyah Boston, contested Jackie Young's foul call. Stephanie White motioned for a review right away. Fans braced themselves as the bench was prepared. The officials pretended that nothing had occurred. The request was blatantly ignored by them. Momentum was completely reversed a few seconds later when Kelsey Gray made a three-pointer.
A'ja Wilson is 1 for 12 as a foul is called on Boston, and that will be number 2 on Aliyah Boston.
You saw Indiana picking up full court pressure defensively, and if you're Aliyah Boston, that's the one spot on the floor you do not want to get a foul called.
And Stephanie White is trying to challenge it and did not call the timeout in time. Gray in the corner. Connect!
What had been a well-earned Indiana lead was snatched away by a call that the referees refused to even analyze, not by Vegas's play. The shouts of the Gamebridge audience turned to alcohol and rage as they burst into shock. Fans and observers pointed to that same time as evidence of manipulation as clips of the sequence went viral online in a matter of minutes. More than one skipped review was revealed by those breakdowns. They exposed an Aces pattern of elbows, flops, and cheap shots that authorities were miraculously oblivious to.
2-minute recap from last night. So A'ja Wilson pushes Howard in the back. Howard pushes her in the back. It's a foul on Howard. Look at this. Aliyah Boston gets totally fouled by Nalissa Smith. Like, it's obvious, but no call. And then A'ja Wilson gets the call for not half as much. And then Nalissa Smith gets the call. for not even getting touched. Here's a replay just to prove it to you. Yep, didn't get touched.
At that point, this began to resemble an agenda rather than supervision. Listen to the tape. With his shoulders dropped like a fullback, Wilson dominated Boston, and the game continued. Defenders from Indiana were flung to the ground, yet there was no sound. In the meantime, the whistle blew as if a Fever player had committed armed robbery if they even touched a jersey. It wasn't about Vegas being more skilled than Indiana. Until the scoreboard swung, the referees were giving them lifelines.
Follow it up by Lexi Hull getting called for the foul.
I thought it was egregious, honestly. I mean, I thought it was obvious. I felt like AB got one, had one going to the rim. They're in rotation. And then Lexi's, I felt like equally, we talk about, coming into the path, and it was an offensive player veering into the defensive player's path.
This is where Indiana stood out, though. Smaller groups would have disintegrated. The majority of groups would have folded, mumbled about the unfairness, and lowered their heads. Not the Fever, and Lexi Hull herself served as the emblem of that disobedience. Consider it. How frequently do you witness a player who most likely shouldn't be on the court completely alter the course of a playoff match? Hull performed precisely that in the previous games. She was listed as questionable for every game after suffering a serious back ailment in Game 1. It appeared as though she would only play a few minutes as a stand-in because her warm-ups appeared rigid and her motions lacked confidence. Hull did more than simply record minutes, though. She made the evening into a demonstration of her own fortitude. Long after this series concludes, viewers will continue to discuss the series.
Lexi, you have drawn the most offensive foul in the W this year, including the playoff. How are you able to do that?
I'm just trying to defend as hard as I can, and there's only certain screens you're allowed to set, so just trying to trail them, and that's all I can really say.
She finished with 16 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal while nailing 3 enormous three-pointers and shooting 6 of 10 from the field. Every time Vegas attempted to overtake Indiana, they all felt like oxygen. There was more to those threes than just numbers. Nobody anticipated that a player suffering from back discomfort would tie her with a Fever playoff record across 2 games, giving her a total of 8. And in the midst of turmoil, she scored 16 points, her career playoff high.
Boston has the mismatch on Lloyd. Help comes. Kick out. Hull will fire. And hit from 3. Last 2 positions inside from Indiana. Smith tied up by Hull. And a jump ball between Smith and Hull.
Her performance was noteworthy for more reasons than just the numbers. It was the way she obtained them. Every conquest was a conflict. Unruly balls became collisions, and rebounds became wrestling matches. Nevertheless, Hull never gave up. She was repeatedly seen on camera grimacing in agony, but it didn't stop her from boxing out opponents who were bigger and healthier than her. Despite giving up her body to get rebounds and diving on the floor for loose balls, she maintained her composure to make 3-pointers from the opposite end. She didn't only make plays for points. Every time officiating attempted to bleed them dry, it gave the Fever new life.
On the left side of the floor, just a clear out, letting Jackie Young go to work.
Jackie Young with 17 points. Boston to the corner. Hull, catch, fire, and hit. Correct call. Evans dishes. Ray whips a pass inside. What a denial from Lexi Hull.
The Hull able to save the play.
12-point game, a little under 2.5 to go. Hull hits Indiana's first field goal of the quarter.
Fans gathered around her for precisely that reason. A blind person is not Gamebridge. They were aware of what they were seeing. A fighter who endures hardship in order to support her squad. The audience became involved again with each rebound she grabbed and each shot she made. The core of Indiana's resistance was Hull's work, even when whistles attempted to dampen the enthusiasm.
Back to Hull, wide open 3 is good.
The floor that she wants, doesn't it?
It does. Mitchell, connect. Here's Mitchell. Mitchell, one more. You bet.
However, that is what intensifies the pain of the night. That same evening, Lexi Hall gave her best postseason performance to date. It wasn't about her that was discussed. Her 16 points and her courageous 10 boards weren't the main focus. The officials were swaying the game. Controversy took away the attention that ought to have been given to her bravery. Perhaps that is the ideal metaphor for the actual fever. Even though they are consistently pushed aside and ignored, underdogs continue to rise tall. Let's consider this in a broader context. On the one hand, Hull sacrificed all for her teammates, enduring physical suffering. Wilson, the league's alleged MVP, was mostly gone when it counted most, supported only by whistles that provided her opportunities Indiana never had. The entire story is conveyed by that contrast. One team earned it via sacrifice and sweat, while the other was supported by officials who were more concerned with upholding the Aces' reputation than allowing the Fever's struggle to be shown.
Offensive foul, practically a football check, and the Aces score. So now the Aces cut it to 2, and then A'ja Wilson sets an illegal screen, and they tied things up. And then Lexi Hall gets called for a foul for doing nothing when they just had 2 illegal screens they didn't call. All right, so this is fair. Same thing happens on the other side, but they don't call a foul for Kelsey Mitchell. So Aliyah Boston gets called for this foul for getting her arm grabbed, but Stephanie White can't challenge. They won't let her. That's the second time this game they didn't let her have her challenge. And then A'ja Wilson starts acting like a big baby.
Imagine this. The so-called MVP, the most decorated player in the NBA, has gone over 3 quarters without making a basket. Wilson did that in the third game. She seemed to set the tone for dominance with her confident three-pointer to start the evening. Rather, it became her sole focal point for the first half. Even a rookie on a 10-day contract would be embarrassed by her shooting line, which was 1 for 11 at the half. She ultimately hobbled to just 13 points on 20 shots, with 6 baskets on 20 tries. Let's face it, that is terrible. Not only less than her expectations. Horrible, but unacceptable for any WNBA starter, much less the MVP winner. Wilson floated outward, forcing disputed fadeaways and mid-range prayers, clearly shaken by Aliyah Boston's unrelenting defense, rather than putting her weight on the floor, setting the tone, and exerting herself as she has been praised for.
And then here we go. She gets a foul call with a 3-point game for, I don't know why they called that foul, but it's the third quarter and they want them to win. So here we go. Ace is up by 3. They call another foul for A'ja Wilson that isn't a foul. All right, so then they call another foul on the Fever that isn't a foul. And then to end the game after it's out of control because the Fever had a 6-point lead, but they kept calling fouls, another foul for A'ja Wilson that's not a foul. Ball don't lie, A'ja missed 11 shots in a row during this game.